Hello and welcome to the Team VVV podcast for all your weekly racing game rambles. I'm Martin and joining me as ever is Kevin.
Hi guys.
Alan.
Hello viewers.
And Ed.
Hi everyone.
If you enjoy the podcast, do give us a like and subscribe as always. It really does help support what we do. This week we are giving away a PS4 code for Rockin' Racing Off-Road, so do check out the website for more details on that. So, a couple of weeks ago, Codemasters announced DiRT 4. You may remember that. But it was literally the day after we recorded our podcast, which was very inconsiderate of them, frankly. This week, however, Slightly Mad Studios very kindly announced Project Cars 2, coming in late 2017, just in time for this podcast. It promises to be one of the most advanced racing games ever, frankly. Has over 170 cars, over 60 tracks, and insanely realistic dynamic weather. I think every other racing game developer should just give up, frankly. We've already had an in-depth discussion about Project Cars 2, though, which will be up later in a separate podcast. So really, for now, I just wanted to get some initial trailer reactions, really. 'Cause we had the leaked trailer a few weeks ago. Now we've got the official trailer, which showed off a bit of new footage. But what were your guys' general impressions of it as an official trailer? Did it work for you?
Yeah, I mean, we were spoiled, weren't we, right, with the initial leak, and that gave me some massive wow moments. Seeing the rain getting sort of swept off the side by the wind or evaporating, and that was incredible. So the trailer's never going to give me that wow factor once more because we've seen the sort of the big selling points, if you like. But yeah, it certainly was a decent trailer. It's got everyone talking. It's got everyone excited. The hype is there. You can read people's comments, and it's just a buzz around this game now. But there is a bit of cynicism as well because there were bugs in the first game. So some people are treading quite carefully because number one did have a bit of a reputation. So it's an interesting mix of buzz and sort of people that are sort of being a bit cautious, I'd say. Yeah,
I'm pumped personally. I mean, I just watched the trailer. If you haven't seen it already, it is, from a visual point of view, it is absolutely mind blowing. Yeah. Again, we go into more detail in the Project Cars 2 discussion podcast, but the amount of detail they've got into, you will not believe the amount of detail in the physics, in the visuals, the sound design. It really should be.
Yeah, amazing detail, isn't it? Absolutely. I was just going to say, actually, I did see a clip at the preview. I forgot to mention in the actual video coming up, and there's this showing this car racing in this tunnel, which just looked really impressive. That hasn't been shown in a trailer. And it's little moments, like in the leaked footage originally, I really like seeing how a car was drifting on the ice circuit. I just like the way it was moving and stuff. Nice little elements and moments in there that you see and you think, oh, that looks pretty cool. I want to drive that. And it gave you that essence. But no, very impressive.
It's incredible just how competitive this year is going to be for racing games, because we've got the three big franchises are back with Project Cars 2, Forza Motorsport 7, and of course Gran Turismo Sport. A couple of things kind of strike me here. I mean, if we just look at the car list and the track selection alone, for example, I think I'm right in saying it has roughly the same amount of cars as Gran Turismo Sport, 170.
I think it's like roughly, yeah.
It's roughly the same. I bet you anything the car list will be more interesting in Project Cars 2. There won't be an endless selection of Nissan Skylines for a start.
They'll certainly do aspects, genres better because they're focusing dedicated on certain racing genres. So they'll do those better than other titles.
And then you look at the esports, for example. Again, we're going into more detail into this in the other podcast, but you kind of think that was one of Gran Turismo Sport's main selling points. How will it compare to Project Cars 2? That's the question.
Yeah, it's good. I mean, it's going to be so competitive this year, isn't it? I suppose on paper, that Forza Motorsport 7 is going to be technical, as a technical achievement. I mean, Turn 10 Studios are amazing, but the problem is the handling just isn't there. And they need to redo the physics. If they get the physics right in Forza Motorsport 7 and they get everything else in there as well, wow, that's going to be a monster title to try and beat. But if they don't make progress in those areas, then it's an open market in terms of the best racing game. But esports wise, we'll have to wait and see what Turn 10 have in mind in terms of esports. Because at the moment we know it's a key factor of GT Sport. We know it's a key factor of Project Cars 2, but we don't know anything about Forza Motorsport 7. So it's going to be interesting. I think certainly, we'll have to wait and see, won't we? It's all a mystery at the moment.
Yeah, it's exciting times though.
If
you're a racing game fan.
Yeah, certainly is.
So obviously with Project Cars, it was groundbreaking at the time. We always say it was a landmark racing game, especially on console, where simulations were largely a rarity. So I think it's fair to say it really paved the way for racing simulations on console. We probably wouldn't have seen the Assetto Corsa, for example, last year. But even so, I don't think any of us expected a certain announcement last week of GTR 3 coming to consoles. I mean, that's a game I've heard of for quite a long time. It's been in development hell, by the sounds of it, for years on end. And all of a sudden, they've announced it's coming out on PS4 and Xbox One.
Well, it's a strange one. I keep my ear to the ground, as to what's going on. It sounds to me like there's a model of a car and there's Spa, and there's not really much else at the moment in terms of development. So they're coming out next year, and it feels to me like if they're looking for further investment to complete the game, that they're testing the water in terms of seeing what the public reception is on the game, and saying to perhaps investors, look, there's a great interest for this title. It's worth investing in terms of sim racing. If Assetto Corsa can do it and break even, then we can do it as well, using perhaps developments that they've discovered in Race Room and everything else. It's not like they're new to the genre, and they've already possibly got licenses and options that they can use. So they've got it in place. Everybody wants it. Everybody wants more sim racing, and another hardcore sim on the market can only be good. The market can handle it in terms of that end of the sim racing market. I mean, it's never going to be a mass market game if they do it properly.
Like I said, it's even more specialist than the likes of Assetto Corsa and Project Cars, from what we've seen so far.
Yeah, it's an interesting. It's for the people that love sim racing, it's great. But in terms of commercial viability, that's what they've got to prove, that there's enough interest in there to make it commercially viable. But either way, let's wait and see how it turns out.
Yeah, I mean, I'll be honest, I'm not that familiar with the series. It's always been a PC exclusive in the past, but it does have a very solid reputation. Yeah,
it has a great reputation. I mean, it was a good sim. It's just like you say, on the PC market, at that time, there wasn't nearly as much competition as there is now.
No, it's different.
You're coming next year, and you're going to have, big games competing on the market, big, enormous games. And, like I say, we've got Everest happening right now. There's mountains and continents crashing into each other and everything. Vesuvius is going off. Towns are being destroyed, and we've got GTR coming in there as well. And is it just going to get smothered by rock? Who knows? But
it's just as well. It's coming out next year then.
Absolutely,
yes.
Yeah. I would avoid this year. It's just it's not just those types. It's Need for Speed and other stuff that hasn't been mentioned yet. So
yeah.
There's a lot coming.
DiRT 4, for example.
DiRT 4, yeah.
We recently found out actually that the sim handling model is going to be closer to the real deal than Dirt Rally, and that's an actual quote.
Yeah, I read that actually. Yeah,
a pleasant surprise. I must admit, I did not expect that.
No, I didn't expect that, and it's interesting that they're putting it in there, isn't it? They're trying to train people up in a game like this to get them more used to what perhaps future Dirt games could be. But you know what? In theory, if it's more realistic, then it should be slightly easier to drive, because real life often feels a bit easier than video games. In terms of sims, I think sometimes they lack a bit of grip and stuff like that. So
that's something the Assetto Corsa developers concentrated on, wasn't it?
Yeah, some cars are not that hard to drive in Assetto Corsa, but then, as the developers will tell you, if you get in your own car and you drive down the shops, you don't crash it every single day, do you? It's not that difficult to drive. It's difficult to drive on the limit, but it's not difficult to drive.
I think with Dirt Rally, there was probably an abundance of grip on, say, tarmac and under braking. So maybe they could address those areas and just make it a little bit looser on these sort of surfaces, particularly in the wets as well. I find that the tarmac is it's too grippy for me, and under braking as well. With like Sebastian Loeb, you know, you couldn't just stamp on the brakes. You had to really be quite gentle, otherwise, you know, you'd slide your car off. And that's how I feel a rally car should be. Whereas dirt rallies, it was much more forgiving, I would say, overall in terms of braking and certain surfaces. So, yeah, there's one or two things there they can address and iron out. So it'd be nice to see that in Dirt 4. But I'm very skeptical about this, because this is incredible news, really, because I did not expect Dirt 4 to have the option to have this really sort of sim focus you know, mode, because you've got the normal mode and you've got your sim mode. And if the sim mode truly is a dirt rally-esque sort of style of handling, then that's a fantastic achievement from the Codemasters, and probably the first time I've actually seen a title that's offering, you know, truly offering the casual market and the sim market, you know, something to get your teeth into.
That worries me in a way, because you do wonder if will the game suffer because of that, because they're trying to please both audiences in the same game. That rarely works.
Yeah.
Past games. Yeah.
Well,
compromise one or the other. It's never going to please.
It satisfies the dirt rally audience that they have something to go and test and play, and some will buy it just to hone it and get used to it. And you know,
I mean, could you argue that Dirt Rally was there to test the water for Dirt 4's future sim mode?
No, I think that I think they were testing a sim. I think that because Paul Coleman is he does co-driver. He's a massive rally guy. He goes with John Tucker in a rally car, and they do various different rallies. And he just wanted to bring something that was more realistic than anything that was on the market. They made a separate game. I think if it had crashed and burned, you wouldn't be seeing this mode in Dirt 4 right now. You'd be seeing Ken Block back doing donuts. But you know, you've got this, and I think that Dirt Rally fans will buy. I mean, I don't think there's that much less locations than there is in Dirt Rally. Actually, it's nearly like the whole Dirt Rally game.
There's 5 locations in Dirt 4, I believe. Rally locations, that is.
Yeah,
right. And
so Dirt Rally, which is one of our chief complaints about the game.
Exactly. So you've got, I mean, providing the stages are lengthy enough and they handle well, it's a nice little thing to keep Dirt Rally fans happy. But at the same time, it has more mass market appeal. And we were just talking about GTR 3, that's going to be super sim. You know, this is going to have the approachable handling model, and if you want, it's going to have sim mode, which adds a whole new dynamic to the game. So if you can have the option of having it in there, good, why not? But it'll be interesting to see how difficult it is to drive, or easy it is to drive in terms of an intuitive nature. You know, it should be relatively intuitive, providing they get the handling right.
Yeah, I just can't believe it'll be on that same level as Dirt Rally. To me, Dirt Rally is a separate franchise in itself, almost, to please the hardcore crowd.
It's like playing anything, really. I think once you can have assists on, and it's going to be quite easy. Turn them off, and it'll be quite difficult. So I think, you know, I've always said, like, if you take Formula One, for example, it's a good example. Make the most realistic sim you can, and then when you've made the sim and it's 100% real life, then start adding assists to it until a beginner can play it. More and more and more assists. And if somebody wants to switch those assists off, they have a full sim. So I think that you start with a sim. So I think if they've done that with the rally and they said, well, you know, we started with a perfect simulation, then we added all these elements. But if you want to turn them off, you just get the core sim, then that's great that it's in there. I think it's only a good thing they put it in. I think it's good that Codemasters have done that. You know, it's but like you say, it doesn't matter how many people use it, but the Dirt Rally fans will enjoy it. I look forward to one day when we get access to it, testing it out. So not so far. Yeah,
I was going to say we'll never know until we get invited to play it.
Exactly. Yeah, you know, but when we do get invited to play it, I'll be sure to test that mode out and give you guys some feedback and record some videos as well.
Whenever that day may be.
Whenever that day, when it's released. Yeah.
Don't say that. Don't give them ideas. So, what other racing game news do we have this week? Big Assetto Corsa news, everyone. You ready for this?
Oh.
You guess? No. Well, the Porsche Pack Volume 3 is coming to PlayStation 4 next week.
Hey,
Oh,
Porsche packs.
Yes, we've
Honestly,
never discussed the Porsche packs before on the
never
podcast.
Porsche pack. I think, like you say, we've been discussing this for, it feels like a year now, doesn't it?
Just the words, just
My
the
goodness.
words Assetto Corsa Porsche pack sends me to sleep.
deja vu. Next, should be telling me there's a Forza Horizon pack or something.
You know what? There actually was one.
Yeah.
Yes, it's called the Playseat car pack, and quite frankly, the only car you should care about in that pack is the Aston Martin DB11.
Oh, I don't know. The little Honda's kind of cute.
But it's an Aston Martin, it has my name in it.
Well, I suppose.
There you go.
Therefore, it's the best car in the world.
Makes it special. Yeah.
Makes it special, yeah. In all seriousness, the Aston Martin DB11 is, I believe that is the first time it's featured in a racing game, which again isn't really new for Forza. They've done it with so many cars lately, like the BMW i8. You know, fair play to them. It's not.
Yeah, they're good at that.
They are very good at that, but a very unusual pack, has to be said. Were there any other cars you liked in there, Ed?
There wasn't anything that made me feel like, oh, do you know what? I really want to boot Forza Horizon back up again and download this pack and get that car and just go for a cruise. Because there have been packs that have done that. I've been like, oh yeah, I'll go and check that out. But this one, not really. There wasn't anything in there really that was like, yeah, let's go.
No, I mean the Honda Civic Type R Owners Club will obviously be buying that and be cruising. I think that's the Vauxhall Corsa VXR Club.
Oh God,
I'll be liking that as well. Get Vauxhall owners racing around together in their stylish cars. But
there's no Tesco car parks for that. For that
there isn't. There isn't. I don't know if there is a supermarket car park anywhere in the game, actually. But if there is, that's when you need it. So
there is definitely a car park that they could live in.
Actually, you know, the funny thing is, I was many years ago. There's a rally driver, Craig Breen, and he took me out in a rally car at Silverstone years ago, and we were racing round. And he's now, you know, competing in the WRC, and we were racing round Silverstone, and we were going down the Hanger Straight, getting to Stowe, and we were going really quickly at the time. And then there was a Vauxhall Corsa in front of us, and this was on an open track day. There were 4 guys in this Vauxhall Corsa, and I remember them just turning into the corner, and just the car was so heavy, just leaning about, and they just went straight off the track. I thought it was hilarious at the time. It's just the way these 4 guys were squeezed into this Vauxhall Corsa. It was pretty funny. But yes, that's my memory of Vauxhall Corsa.
Wow.
Track day. It was tracks. I think it was. Yeah, well, 2009 or 2010. But yeah, modern car show. Yeah, says it all.
Yeah, that's where it belongs, I think. So yeah, I'm sure you can mod it with loads of undesirable body kits in Forza Horizon 3 until your heart's content. It's true. That's all Corsas ever do. I think the more interesting Forza related news though is that Playground Games is actually forming a new studio, and their intention is to make another open world game outside of the racing genre, which I don't think anyone expected. Interesting revelation. I wonder what genre they'll do next.
Yeah, it'd be interesting. I mean, we all have this conversation, don't we? I mean, we've recently expanded to VR because it's nice to mix up what we do on the channel, but we at the same time you know, we still was racing fans, but we do play other things from time to time that are relevant, and that's why we like to share a bit of that sometimes. And I think it's for those guys as well. They, you know, they have other things that they've made this amazing open world environment. They've probably said, wow, wouldn't it be cool if we could have helicopters flying in like we used in the game, blowing stuff up and all that. And suddenly they said, well,
that sounds a bit like the Criterion project that still hasn't happened.
Well, exactly. I mean, there's things that they can do with that landscape, and I think they've realised our tech is really advanced. So let's try something. So who knows? You know,
how much of it is their tech, though?
Well,
that's the next question.
Well, it's turn 10 Microsoft in-house tech. But as an in-house studio, I mean, they get the very best, and I think that's something that people don't realise is that first-party studios get way better technology and support from the manufacturers than anyone else does. Hence why first-party games always look the best on any format. So Yeah, I mean, it's all part of their in-house engineering group. But I mean, Turn 10 are for me, among the best in the world. Like Naughty Dog, they're just, their technology is amazing.
Yeah, you do wonder, will it stall development of a future Forza Horizon sequel, or will they just divide the team into a bit like Milestone and work on different projects simultaneously?
It'll be a new studio, so it's not going to affect Forza Horizon at all.
Let's face it, there will be a Forza Horizon 4 because Horizon 3 made way too much money for them not to.
Yeah,
exactly. But yeah, it's interesting. We'll see what comes of that then. Moving on to Milestone news. Well, this is major news. There's a lot of this in this podcast. Lots of groundbreaking stories. There's going to be a new MotoGP 17 game.
Wow, there you go.
I tried to make it sound exciting. I really tried, but yeah, I can't but feel like where can they go from Valentino Rossi the game? But I don't answer that because it'll probably involve radio-controlled cars again.
Exactly. I mean, you know what? I think I would like to see a complete overhaul of the graphics engine, personally. I'd like to see a brand new graphics engine, 60 frames per second. Let's try something new. Let's do this. I want to see, absolutely. I'm going to be the one.
Doesn't it?
It does need it. I mean, it needs for me.
I think what's happened with MotoGP is it's after each iteration it got stale. So I thought, okay, we'll bung all this content in, but there's only so long you can do that for. I mean, are they going to do it again with MotoGP 17? I'm not so sure, but it definitely needs something, doesn't it? It needs a kick up the.
It does. It needs a boost. It needs a boost this year. I think you've got to give people an excuse to buy it. Other than that, you've just got different names on different bikes. It's very subtle changes, but
What's the problem? That's going to be the 5th game I think they've released now in the MotoGP series. I mean, licensed games like this do have a habit of becoming very stale year after year. They really have to sort of reinvigorate it to keep your interest, and that's always going to be a challenge. But MXGP 3, by the looks of it, is going to have some new graphics technologies. Like we could probably expect that to end up in MotoGP.
Well, that's what I'm hoping. Yeah, I mean, we really want to see what MXGP looks like, and what they can do to make it. I mean, if they can, MotoGP visually just isn't that exciting. It's just not an exciting game, and yet Formula One runs at 60 frames per second, and it looks much more polished. Now I think they really need to work on smoothing things up, And
I reckon weather will be a recurring thing, because I remember a year or so ago, you had the new customization options to kit out your bike and your rider and tune it and all this sort of thing, and they did that in every single license series they had: MXGP, Ride, MotoGP,
and even game modes have seen transitions between games, like Perfect Trajectory in Sebastian.
Yeah, it's like the back of the box features were just copy pasted for each game.
Yeah, I mean, it's understandable, isn't it? Once they put the technology in place and the code in place, they can import it into other games. But I'd imagine MotoGP 17 will have some pretty decent weather effects.
Yeah, although wasn't that one of the main selling points of, was it 14? I think the brand new rain effects and that kind of thing.
I know it didn't look too hot in Valentino Rossi, the rain. It did look rather.
I will just make a complaint. Something that they did that I didn't like was I think it was MotoGP 2014. We did a slow-mo video on the channel. MotoGP Sunshine, great video. Really enjoyed making it. Had amazing replays, and you could work with them in slow motion. You had various different tools. Fantastic. And then they took that out. It's not been in it since. I was like, why did you take out the replays? I wanted to do it differently. And so you can't do that. You couldn't do a video like that now, because they put the slow motion figure onto the trigger. So what I did was I had to get sellotape and tape down the Xbox trigger to get it to the right point, and it just wasn't working that well. So I just couldn't do it. I gave up in the end. I was like, oh, well, we just can't do slow-mo replays, a consistent slow motion frame rate, which was quite frustrating, but I did like that. It was very cool.
And of course, we've also got the mystery unannounced game from them as well, coming later this year.
Yeah, that'll be interesting to see. Again, no information yet, but we'll share information on that and content when we have it.
Maybe it'll be a standalone radio-controlled car game. Never know.
Maybe. maybe. You never know.
It was a test.
Nothing would surprise me. They did actually make a fun overhead rally game a few years ago. But
WRC something, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was a WRC one. It was quite fun to play.
Power Slide?
Something like that, yeah.
Yeah. It's quite fun at the time, but
yeah, it's quite an unusual spin-off, and they never developed any further, sadly.
No, I quite liked it because what they did was originally it was one of those things that when they were in the development studio, I remember popping in, and they did it because they wanted to do helicopter cameras for the actual replay angles. And then when they zoomed the camera out, you saw this area that they hadn't made, sort of, in terms of landscape. So they had to make all this landscape. And they said, oh, the cars look like toy cars racing around. Why don't we make a toy car game? And it came from, I think, just the art guys sort of mucking around, playing it from that angle. Yeah. And then eventually they made a little game out of it, which was a nice idea and was a lot of fun. Quite competitive as well. And they didn't develop it further.
They're quite serious, aren't they, these days, Milestone?
They're a changing company. The projects are costing more. The technology is improving. I mean, this year we're seeing their new level of investment. Where are we? 2017. I think that was always going to be around this time. You get a technology step every 5 years, say. And so now we're going to see the next generation. Milestone have been one of those companies, though, who've always been just behind the curve. They've just caught up with everyone else's technology as everyone else moves on to the next thing. And I think this time they're just getting a bit ahead, but let's see what happens. Frame rates.
That should be the priority. But I wonder if they're going to bring back one of their old franchises, like Screamer Rally, for example. You never know.
Yeah, I think Screamer's definitely something which has sort of cropped up in my mind. They have that brand there, but they don't want to use it until they've got really good graphics. And because the thing about Screamer is it looked amazing at the time. And I think that's what they want. They want to do something that looks amazing. But wow, what a time to do it. I mean, look at Project Cars and what you're up against. It's a tough market out there now to make people go, wow.
Yeah, exactly. We had another game announcement as well. We can't forget this one. We've got Flatout 4 Total Insanity. Again, just like Project Cars 2, it all leaked before it was announced, so none of us are really that surprised. But it did treat us to the first ever gameplay footage of it, and I'm a bit underwhelmed, unfortunately. I love my combat racers, but I kind of sat there and watched it and thought to myself, does this look any better than Flatout 2? Because obviously Flatout 3 doesn't exist.
I'm glad you said 2 and not 3 then, yeah.
Yeah. No, what's Flatout 3? That game never happened. I thought to myself, does it look better than Flatout 2? And I rewatched the original trailer for Flatout 2, and the answer was no. I swear the trailer for Flatout 2, a game that's over 10 years old now, I think, to me looked better and more exciting.
Yeah, it doesn't inspire confidence, the trailer, does it?
No, it's not a well-produced trailer. It's just not a well-produced trailer. If you gave me the game and you gave me a few days to sit down and take the best of it, I'm sure I'd have put something better together. It seemed like it was made in a day. Someone said, oh, could you make a trailer for us? And that was it. They just sort of knocked it together in the next 2 hours.
It doesn't fully have confidence, especially when this is the first trailer we've ever seen of it and it's out next month.
Yeah, it's strange. Yeah, who knows? I mean, it's you know what? It could be great fun. I mean, there are elements that look like it could be really good fun, but visually, it's not blowing your socks off, is it?
No, the physics look a bit off to me. I know it's supposed to be an arcade racer, but the original Flatout had surprisingly good physics. The cars actually had weight to them. You really did feel like you were kind of wrestling this banger racer around the track. It kept understeering like it would in real life. Whereas in this game, the cars don't really seem to have any real weight to them. Like on some of the crashes, you hit the car, and it just goes flying in the air unrealistically.
It looks very light.
Yeah, so that does concern me a bit. But nevertheless, I will be playing it soon with any luck. So I'll obviously report back on that and see what I think, and see how it compares to previous games in the series. Obviously, it's worth bearing in mind it's not made by Bugbear, who did Flatout 1 and 2. They're now doing Wreckfest, which I really can't wait for. I wish they'd hurry up and announce the release date for that. I think Wreckfest will probably be the one to watch on console.
Very interested to see Wreckfest on console. Again, I hope they can get. It'll probably be a 30 frames game. I'm thinking on console. I hope it isn't, but I get the feeling it will be for some reason because there's so much going on. But it's a shame. But on the PC running 60 frames, it looks really, really nice. So, and it's running at 60 frames on my 780s a couple of years ago. So I mean, one would hope that they could optimize it enough to run it on the current consoles, but we'll wait and see.
Yeah, I mean, Flatout 4 still could be fun in its own right. I think we need more games like this that don't take themselves too seriously in the racing genre. We've got games like Project Cars 2, Gran Turismo, super serious simulations. We need this sort of balance back, I think.
We do. I mean, like you say, a few years ago when Blur was released and
don't get me started on that.
And we need something like Blur or Split Second on the market now. I mean, imagine what Blur would look like, and Split Second even with modern graphics. But the thing about those games was you didn't need to read an instruction booklet. You didn't need to know about tuning a car and all that stuff. You didn't need to be specialist at driving in all weathers and conditions. You just had to pick up, press start, hit that accelerator, and go for it. And the rest was just intuitive, really intuitive. You felt the car, and you just went with it. And there is something to be said for arcade games. So, if the physics work in terms of hitting walls and objects in Flatout, it's loads of fun, and your body flies out everywhere and makes people laugh, then that's going to be great. But
as a fan of the series, I can't help but compare it to Flatout 1 and 2.
Yeah,
that's the problem. To me, it seems to pale in comparison to them, judging from the trailer at least. Go and watch the trailer for Flatout 2. It is a much better produced trailer than this, unfortunately, and that's from a game that came out, I think it was 2006, something like that. I think that's it actually for the news. Actually, Kevin will like this one there with our resident Rocket League fan. Obviously, you saw the Hot Wheels DLC, Kevin.
Oh yes.
Will that bring you back to Rocket League?
Well, I did play a little bit of Rocket League. I went about a month without playing it, so that was my sort of New Year's resolution to play less. Lasted about a month.
That bad, you had to set a New Year's resolution.
Yeah, I'm getting back into it a little bit now, but they introduced these sort of octagonal maps, or however many sides they have, and I just lost interest for a little while there, going back a while ago. So it's still a great game, of course, but yeah, Hot Wheels DLC, it's more vehicles to add on to the many vehicles that they have already. So for me, it's not something I am particularly interested in, but I know a lot of people will be. So it's on the side.
I might just get them for the wheels.
Yeah.
One of them's got some really cool 5-spoke wheels, so I might just get that.
I was more of a Matchbox fan myself.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah,
as a child. Right, so I think it's time for our Q&A now. Obviously, I think it's fair to say most of them are going to be about Project Cars 2. Obviously, we announced the fact that we played Project Cars 2 in a preview event. I think it's fair to say a lot of these questions will have been answered in our separate Project Cars 2 discussion, which will be coming up in a later video. But we'll go through them anyway, and if there's anything else we can add, we'll do the best we can. So first up, on Facebook, Alan Jandero Gorgle, I'm sorry if I mispronounced that. He says, is the force feedback more accessible? And by that, I mean, does it still have a million options that are impossible to figure out?
You know what? We didn't see any of that, but I think assume that the options are in there, but assume that the default should be, correct. The only thing you should need to adapt is force feedback strength.
Right.
That's the main thing in options, if it's all sort of balanced and stuff like that. So
yeah,
we wait and see, but I think that they've learned a lot from the first game. I think the force feedback will be much better.
There was something that Andy mentioned in his presentation. At the end of the presentation, the bit that I caught, he was talking about the controller and how people were complaining on Project Cars 1 that you had to change infinite settings in order to make it work on a controller. He said that they've worked on that a lot.
Christopher Callan says, is it buggy like the first one? Or is the frame rate solid if it was on a console? Someone had to ask that.
We won't see the console versions probably until summer, maybe at the very earliest. I would expect not to see the console until maybe August at the earliest. And in terms of bugs, they do feel that this time they've got a hold on it and that there won't be the same issue as before. If there is bugs, I expect them to probably delay the game until they've got that sorted.
Let's hope so. Paul Morgan says, how are the physics and how does the force feedback compare to Assetto Corsa?
Again, because all the assists were on and it was an early development model, we couldn't say. Ed, you tried some of the cars and you're more experienced in that area. You could feel improvement, couldn't you?
Yeah, definitely. There's definite solid improvement. I spoke about it in more detail in the Project Cars 2 discussion that we've got coming up on the channel. But yeah, I was very impressed as a core Assetto Corsa player. I was very impressed, especially as just like normal driving. When I got into sliding the car about and testing it at the limit of grip, there was a couple of issues, but I think they're still working on it. I spoke to one of the guys there. He said that they'd recently made some changes to it still. So it's still a work in progress. So hard for me to tell for sure.
Thomas Kubiak says, are ovals, animated pit crews, and options to create custom seasons actually included this time? I don't really know the answer to that.
Well, we know that ovals are being tested. Ian Bell has answered loads of questions on the Project Cars forum. One of them is that they're doing extensive testing with AI on ovals to perfect it.
Oh, cool.
So in his words, it's never perfect, but they're certainly working hard on it, and they reckon they'll get the best AI on ovals ever. With the IndyCar license as well, I think you can look up, I mean, Indy 500 is going to be bang on. I mean, probably when the Indy 500 happens, we'll probably see a big Indy announcement around that time as well. But yeah, so AI is looking good. Pit crews, they haven't shown pit crews, but my guess is they'll be in the game. I guess pit crews will be in there. They weren't in the first game. They want them in there. They've learned how to do it this time. Expect that.
You'd hope so by now.
Remember with the pit crew, what makes it complex is when you're making Formula One, the pits, every car model is essentially the same width and size. When you're running a game that has 170 different types of car, that means you've got to develop 170 different types of pit crew that come out to the right point to fix the cars and the wheels into the right places. So that gives you an idea of just all the different detail that needs to be there.
Yeah. Andy Knowles says, are the cars better weighted or still light and twitchy, similar to the Shift series?
Oh goodness, they were very light and twitchy, weren't they? Incredibly exaggerated. They were similar in some aspects, but it was just so over exaggerated, wasn't it? Everything breaking and turning. It was
always about Armageddon.
I'd hasten first to blame EA for that. That was EA's decision to mess up the physics. They chose to take the physics that they had, which were really good at the time. I felt the physics on Shift before they were messed up were better than what we saw in Project Cars. Then they messed it up and we got Shift 1 and 2. I didn't like Shift 1 and 2, and there are plenty of videos of me moaning about it years ago. I remember finding one car I liked in Shift 2 and saying, well, at least this is progress. I've actually found a car I can drive. But there are videos of me saying, I can't drive this because I'm driving down a straight and the car's just oscillating, moving from side to side. I could barely keep it going in a straight line. Project Cars, it varied car to car in the game. I mean, some cars handle better than others, but there's no doubt great progress has been made on handling. Even with an assisted model, it's clear to see there's more stability on weight transfer this time. So we're expecting good things.
Yep, agree.
Jake Annette says, how excited were you to play Project Cars 2? Very, very excited, I imagine.
Very excited, yeah. For me, I really enjoyed Project Cars 1, despite the issues people have had. I've really enjoyed it, and I've had some great racing. The thing about Project Cars 1 is when the AI works, I've had the best racing I've ever had on Project Cars with AI when it works. So I've had GT races with the AI that have been phenomenal. It felt like driving against real players, and it's been great, defending and everything at times, and it's been interesting. So yeah, Ed, what do you think?
I was very excited. Well, it was very last minute for me. I was sitting at work when you let me know that we could go and try it out. But yeah, immediately, as soon as I knew I could share it, I was on Instagram and letting people know. And it's definitely the hype train has just rolled in. Everyone's all aboard, and we're all ready to ride it for the rest of the year. It's going to be fun.
Yeah, so Ed's now extra popular on Instagram.
We'll see.
Phil Walton asks, how have the physics been improved? We've pretty much answered that. Again, Hangtech Gaming says, do the physics still feel like it's another version of Shift? We've already answered that. Zach Mitchell says, what sort of GT3 and GT-LM cars have been included? Do they go into specifics in that?
Nothing specific at this stage. No,
we drove one.
Yeah.
One of the cars was a GT3 car. It's the AMG GT3.
Okay.
So I guess that counts. I think that's new.
Yep.
Yeah.
One for Ed. Ryan Scott Taylor says, can you drift now?
No, not really. It's very hard. You can if you have very shallow angle, but when I was getting more angle, the force feedback was working against me most of the time.
Note that was an early physics model at the time, and they have changed it since. So in terms of drifting, I think that's going to be something we're going to look at very late in the day in terms of actually having a finalized handling model. I think also what's important to note is, Project Cars, because it varied so much between different cars, we need to test more cars to see how the physics work throughout.
But I think the original game for me was never really about drifting. It was more about super grippy racing cars.
Yeah, it was. Yeah,
more or less. You had the old car that could slide a little bit, but
I mean, if they bring in stuff like autocross events or something like that, then you'll need to be sliding around those corners and stuff like that. Then there's potential there, but let's wait and see. I mean, it's a long way to go.
Yeah. Emmanuel Severisi. He says, are rally cars present, and are there any Lancias in the game? Again, do they go into any specifics with rally cars?
No specific. We know Rallycross is in the game,
yeah.
But other than that, we don't know anything. I think you can expect to see some off-road announcements later in the day, and the same with Rallycross. We don't know what tracks are in the game, anything yet.
Nick Chronic asks, does it have better sounds?
Well, we talked a bit about that in the upcoming Project Cars video. So I'd say check out the extended Project Cars video and you'll see us go into that in more detail.
Yeah, and on an unrelated note, Angus Parker says, Isle of Man game. Where is it?
Where is it? Yeah,
well, I mean, Killerton are releasing Flatout 4 next month, so I imagine possibly after that release we might see a little bit more on
That'll probably be their summer release, I imagine.
Yeah.
We'll wait and see. I mean, I'm expecting it sooner rather than later. Bear in mind that Flatout, we've just seen it's coming out next month, and we're seeing it this month. I think a similar thing could happen to Isle of Man. I think we could see it one month and it's out the next month.
Probably
because it's then it's got to come out in this first sort of half of the year.
Agreed.
So
I mean, let's just say if there is a WRC 7, that usually comes out October time, so it's probably going to be between March and October.
Yes.
But
there could be other things happening. So I think that it's going to be around May it'll be released, which is a good window because it's before E3. It's not going to get lost.
Probably before all the big hitters as well.
Exactly. Yeah. I mean, if you get it out in May, you've really not got much competition in May. May's always a very dead month. It's sort of calm before the E3 storm. So, in a way, though, it kind of, does it give you much confidence in the title when they don't want to show it? I mean, there's a part of me that feels like if they'd shown us a video that was kick, we would all be saying, "Wow, Isle of Man is going to blow our socks off." We're not saying that at the moment. So let's wait and see. It's not going to have dynamic weather, I assume.
Highly unlikely.
Highly unlikely.
Right over onto Twitter. So Nick Hipkin says, any new categories like 90s F1, Super Tourers, Champ Cars, etc. Also, are there custom championships in the single player at last?
None of that stuff was shown, and a random thing apparently is just if like they had Formula A, B, and C instead of Formula 1 in the original game, is they can't do NASCAR style cars in the game. That's an interesting thing about licensing as well. So if you do anything that looks like a stock car, they've actually patented stock cars on a racetrack, so you can't even do stock cars together. So, but no, in terms of unofficial cars like the F1 cars, I I think we're bound to see those back. But I'd love to see more licensed historical cars in there for sure.
Mm-hmm. Paul G says, has there been any thought of a standalone spin-off game when this game's development is done, such as an IndyCar 2018? Why do you say that? Because this is the official game for IndyCar, as we said in the Project Cars 2 discussion video.
Yeah. And, you know, who knows? I mean, what other announcements we're going to get with Rallycross. But, you know, like we said, we'd love a British touring car game. And we can't have that. But if they could have a British touring car season mode option or something, that would be brilliant. You know, add to the whole TOCA feel. But let's wait and see. That might be us just creating dreams for you that will be shattered.
TFCN says, is all the DLC from Project Cars in Project Cars 2?
No
we
idea.
Don't know that yet. No. If it's anything like Forza, probably not.
But they did show the Scottish track, and I forget what it's called.
Bannock Spray?
Yeah, that's the one in the leaked footage.
Yeah. Sorry, the leaked footage also showed Porsche and Ferrari, but that's not showing yet.
Yeah, exactly. So there's still a lot to see in this game. So I think a lot of the DLC stuff will be in the game.
Beverly says, do you think Project Cars 2 will have a drift mode? And what are your expectations for Project Cars 2 and GT Sports career modes?
You know, it's difficult to say. I don't see why it wouldn't have a drift mode. In fact, I'm sure I saw a video clip of cars drifting somewhere. Because we watched quite an extended
one, if I remember, did it?
No, well, it didn't. But there was something they showed in a trailer, you know, behind closed doors trailer before the event yesterday, and I thought, oh, none of that appeared in the presentation. But you know, it was like 1 second clips. You know, nothing to go on. So, and they were showing basically more production cars all drifting around a corner, but you know, you couldn't see. So maybe they did have a drift mode in Shift 2. And I know they're big car fans, and I know they've got more Japanese cars in it this time, and perhaps they'd want something like that, you know, Japanese drift circuits or something. I don't know.
Yeah. And career mode expectations?
Potentially huge. I mean, given the tracks that they've got on offer and the range, you know, it's going to have a range of cars. It could be the best career mode ever. We haven't seen the karting. I'd really like to see them do karting properly this time.
Yeah.
Because it was they sort of did it, but it was a bit like playing toy cars, wasn't it? Really, it didn't feel right. And I think if they got the karting right, it'd be nice to see a game get karting right. Whatever happened to Kartcraft? Goodness knows.
Yeah, it's true. As for GT Sports career, we don't really know a lot about it yet. I don't think.
No, we don't know.
Really.
You know, GT Sport really hasn't moved on for a year, has it? I mean,
I'd love to see their reactions if they've seen the Project Cars 2 trailer. Might get delayed again.
Might get delayed. Well, probably will.
You know, best than Project Cars 2. We have to delay it again.
It wouldn't surprise me to see GT Sport delayed for a year after they've seen Project Cars 2, and they say, "Oh, damn, it's got this, this, and this, and we should have all that." And that's going to be a 2-year delay. You know.
Yeah. Like I said, every other racing game developer should just give up after seeing that.
Yeah.
Anyway, Martin Jensen says, any info on whether the online player count on consoles will be above 16? No info on consoles yet.
No info, but it seems unlikely.
2 to 16 players online was stated. So
that's a limitation.
Higher than 16.
Yeah, not surprising. Jason Seal asks, if you could give us fixes and changes compared to Project Cars 1, that would be great. What works and what didn't you like? I guess you probably didn't have enough time to really ascertain if there were bugs like there are in the first game.
It's a development build. I mean, it's pieces being put together at the moment in a pot. So you know, you can't get anything. I mean, as I say, let's look at the game again in 7 or 8 months' time, see how it's coming along. If you sit on the game and things start happening, then again, it's very difficult. You know, you never really know with bugs until it's released to the public, because I might play the game for 10 hours and play various different cars, and then there are other cars in the game of the 170 cars on other circuits on certain weather conditions. Something will happen, and we'll never see that. You know, so it's one of those games that you have to kind of rely on the developers to say, we've tested it, it works. And if you don't find anything wrong with your playing, then it must work.
And finally, Erwin asks, did you guys play with a wheel, and which version did you play?
PC version on a G29 wheel.
And you also played with a pad as well, didn't you?
Yeah, we played with Xbox One controllers
cool.
On the PC.
Cool. And that's the Q&A, a very lengthy Q&A this week because of Project Cars 2. I think that's it, though, for this podcast. Other than that, anyone else got anything else to add?
No, we've had the video go up, obviously, on the website. Daytona 3 is rubbish.
Oh, yes, we forgot that point, yeah.
Let's hope they fix that. There was another Daytona. Yep.
I was going to say, just a sure candidate for our worst game of the year award.
Easy up there. Yeah, we've got another Daytona 3 video to come, and a Cruising Blast video to come on the channel as well in the next week or so. So keep an eye out for that. And other than that, yeah, just I hope everyone's been enjoying the retro content. Do let us know also what kind of retro titles you'd like to see on the channel. There's lots to go through. Meanwhile, I have a big pile of them, and I'll be trying to keep up with that as well.
And yeah, do check out our Project Cars 2 extended discussion. That'll be up after the podcast, probably in the next day or so after that. But yeah, that's it from all of us now then for this week's podcast. Thanks as always for watching, listening, and watching and listening, as it's a video podcast now. Do keep sending us your questions. Until then, we'll see you again next time. Bye for now.